Hari Om. Chapter 10, we have seen that the glories of everything that we see in the world, in nature, in people, in swabhava, in actions, in kriya, in gun, in bhava, in vyakti, in paristhiti, anything that is really wonderful and splendorous and beautiful and excellent. भगवान is saying, ये विभूति आई कहाँ से? उन चीजों की, उन पदार्थों की तो नहीं हो सकती, क्योंकि इस दुनिया का हर पदार्थ इस जड़ meaning it doesn't have a consciousness of its own. It cannot have an inherent quality of that beauty or excellence. Not even people, although we are sentient beings. So objects and people and vyakti and vastu and paristhiti, ghatna, everything is nashwar and it is in a state of flux. That means it always changes. हर चीज तो बदल रही है. कौन सी ऐसी चीज है जो बदलती नहीं? हर एक रिलेशनशिप, हर एक वस्तु, हमारे मकान, हमारी गाड़ियां, हमारी the progress in my career, my profession, my job, the status of my wealth and property, everything is altering and changing every moment. In fact, every atom in my body is altering every moment. So, if the cells of my body, right from the cells of the body and the atoms out there to the vast world is in constant change, how can they have an inherent, inbuilt, ingrained quality of anything, of excellence, or of beauty, of greatness, of great honor and nobility? How is it possible? Bhagavan says, I lend for some time, I lend that vibhuti to all these objects. तात्पर्य कहने का ये है कि जब भी हम आउटसाइड वर्ल्ड में या अपने में या किसी और व्यक्ति में, उनके गुण में, उनके क्रिया में, उनके भाव में, in their actions and in their attitude, in their demeanor, when we see something very noble and beautiful which we admire and which influences us greatly, and we see that, oh, there is someone who is not capable of fear. You know, like there are soldiers, there are generals who are fearless. Even in corporates, you don't have to have military fearlessness. In corporates, I have seen there are people who have the fearlessness to speak the most uncomfortable truth. It's not that they hide the truth just because they are afraid of losing their job and they let down their colleagues and they let down their teams. Yes, there are some people too. But this fearlessness, when you see in someone, moral stature, or you see in someone of great generosity, you see someone, of course, Mother Teresa, etc., extreme examples. But down the street, you may see someone who is capable of great generosity, who lends her time or lends his time very generously to some NGO and keeps up in the afternoons, works late into the night. Why? Oh, because I'm attached, she says, I'm attached to some NGO, and you know the children are waiting for their festival sweets and new clothes. So I'm trying to collect some donations from neighbors. A small neighborhood activity. You don't have to be a great general or a corporate director in order to show your generosity. How much time there are people who spend in trying to bring happiness to others. When we see this kind of daan and we see this kind of tap meaning they are putting in their effort, and we see some people doing great swadhyaya. You give one lesson, they read the whole chapter. You give one question, they do 3 references from YouTube and from other references. Their swadhyaya is so great. You do see such people, and there are some people who are capable of great. Krishna uses the word arjavam. It's one of my favorite words. Arjavam means a person of great simplicity. So much humility and simplicity that it makes you wonder, you're awestruck that इस संसार में ऐसे भी लोग होते हैं. There is no chal, no kapat. So this arjavam, the word Arjun actually comes from the word arjavam, which means highest level of simplicity of character. When you see this kind of daan, yash, yagya and tap and daan and abhay and arjavam, you say wow. When you say wow to anything, it may be the most beautiful tropical sunset. It may be the sight of a bird skimming across the top of a lake. It may be anything. And the moment your heart jumps and says, wow, किसी के गुण में या भाव में या दृश्य में, ये मेरी ही तो महिमा है, विभूति. दैट्स व्हाट कृष्णा इज सेइंग. कृष्णा इज सेइंग, जब ये क्वालिटीज आप किसी व्यक्ति में देखें और आपका मन उस व्यक्ति की ओर आकर्षित हो जाए, आहा, बिग ट्रबल, बिग ट्रबल. बिकॉज अब हम उस इंसान में फंस जा रहे हैं, हम उस विभूति को इस इंसान में देख रहे हैं, लेकिन उस इंसान का समझ के थिंकिंग ये विभूति तो इनकी है, व्यक्ति विशेष की है. I get caught in that particular person, and that is a big mistake, because that person belongs to sansar, which means that I am getting my mind caught in sansar. Same thing applies to any attractive object or paristhiti or occasion or event which my mind is attracted to, and if I think it belongs to that particular situation or object, my mind is caught where? In sansar. Bhagwan says simple. Every time you see these things, just say, oh, ये तो भगवान की महिमा है, and automatically your mind will distance itself from the sansar, व्यक्ति, वस्तु, परिस्थिति, घटना, गुण, भाव. You will distance yourself and you will attach to the higher, because higher is only one, and that higher has the capacity to give these kind of gun and vibhuti to all these objects of the world. तो अपने मन को ऊपर उठाने के लिए बस केवल इतना छोटा सा काम करिए. वो कह रहे हैं, जस्ट से मेरी विभूति, भगवान की विभूति मान के उसको यू हैव टू लिफ्ट योर माइंड अप फ्रॉम संसार. डोंट गेट कॉट इन इट, बिकॉज ऑल द थिंग्स. फिर भी भगवान ने जितनी भी विभूतियाँ डिस्क्राइब करी हैं चैप्टर 10 में, एंड देयर आर मोर देन 70. आप कहेंगे, अरे ये तो आपने सिर्फ संसार की विभूतियां बताई हैं. कोई पर्वत है, कोई लेक है, कोई द ब्यूटी ऑफ कैरेक्टर है, लाइक धृति एंड क्षमा, या आप कह सकते हैं कि देयर वाज द टॉक ऑफ वेल्थ, द महिमा ऑफ वेल्थ, कुबेर. यस, आई टॉक्ड अबाउट द महिमा, आई टॉक्ड अबाउट द विभूतिज ऑफ संसार. Krishna is saying, yes, I did because there is no other way to tell ordinary human beings like us, and Arjun is very much like in our position, or let's say we are very much in the position like Arjun is in, who has a very simple, ordinary, worldly kind of a mind, and he says, how can I understand the infinite? So Bhagavan says, okay, try and understand through the finite. That's why he has described all things in sansar only as his mahima. As we read on, let's see how Bhagwan brings home this same point over again. Moving ahead, chapter 10, verse number 36. द्यूतं छलयतामस्मि तेजस्तेजस्विनामहम्. द्यूतम छल, जो छल होता है, फ्रॉड होता है, उसमें मैं सबसे उत्तम हूँ. छल में भी उत्तम होता है, एंड दैट इज गैम्बलिंग. एंड यस्टरडे वी सेड, अरे गैम्बलिंग नहीं होती तो अर्जुन इस समय कृष्ण के सामने होते ही नहीं. ही वुड नॉट हैव हर्ड द ग्रेट नॉलेज, एंड वी वुड नॉट हैव गॉट टू हियर इट फ्रॉम संजय, through Mahabharat. We wouldn't have heard this great knowledge either. See, we all would have lost out, but for that situation. Now we can't say gambling is great. That would be a very superficial, literal way to understand it. It's only to say that any situation that presents itself to us, it may be conducive, unconducive, comfortable, uncomfortable. It may seem very unjust or wrong at the moment, but we must remember that whatever has been presented in the world has its cause and its reasons. We may not see the reason, we may not see the cause, because we cannot see thousands of our previous lives. But yes, there is a certain cause, and only that cause, which is the karmic principle, that karmic principle knows what should come to us, in what measure and at what time, or if at all that should come to us. So Bhagavan is saying, okay, hold your horses. I am here to tell you that even in gambling you have gained. Arjun has gained a lot, and so have we through Arjun. But he also says, तेजस तेजस्विनामहम्. जो तेज और स्प्लेंडर आप देखते हैं, जो एक्सीलेंट क्वालिटी आप देखते हैं कुछ लोगों में, और उनके मस्तिष्क से एक तेज झलकता है. There is a kind of a glow around them, of maybe a glow of character, of fearlessness, of honesty, of hard work, of daan, of being extremely generous, of being extremely simple hearted, whatever these qualities, वो तेज जो चमकता है ना चेहरे से, ही saying वो तेज, that quality, I have lent it. I am the tej in the tejas vinamaham. Tejas vinamaham. Actually, this has come in the 7th chapter also, when he said, बीजम माम सर्वभूतानाम, हर एक इंसान का बीज मैं ही हूँ, विद्धि पार्थ सनातनम. Sanatanam, but that is infinite. The beej is infinite. We may drop our bodies and we may drop everything else that we associate with our bodies. What are all the things we associate with our bodies? Oh, first thing I associate with my body is my mind. ये मेरा मन है. और मन associates with what? Likes and dislikes. These are my likes, these are my dislikes. मुझे ये पसंद है, मुझे वो पसंद नहीं है. But the mind is also nashwar. So why are we talking so much about our likes and dislikes? और जैसे ही likes and dislikes के अंदर पढ़ते हैं हम, natural responses, राग और द्वेष, attraction और repulsion. तो या तो हम attraction या attachment में पड़े हुए हैं, राग में, of things which we like, attachment, और complete revulsion, aversion. तो राग और द्वेष are the biggest enemies of ज्ञान, of trying to understand that highest, because Rag and Dvesh are like heavy blankets, like a heavy cloud of smoke, which is actually covering that Jyoti of Gyan, which we are capable of. That Jyoti is not within, that Gyan is everywhere. But there is you can say the human being is a reflecting mirror. That mirror can reflect the beauty of sunlight or the Gyan. But the sunlight cannot reach that mirror if it is clouded heavily with Rag and Dvesh and dust. So, therefore, the Rag and Dvesh cannot reach that mirror. We cannot reflect that Gyan. Therefore, we are lost. But Bhagwan has reassured us, even in 7th chapter, saying, Buddhir buddhimatam asmi. Exact same words have been used. Tejas vinamaham. जो बुद्धि है आपके पास, आप कहते हैं मेरी बुद्धि है, तो उस बुद्धि को द कैपेसिटी टू थिंक, दैट कैपेसिटी टू रिफ्लेक्ट, ये कौन देता है? वो कैपेसिटी मैं हूँ. बिकॉज यू कैन नॉट लोकेट कैपेसिटी. हम कहते हैं वैसे तो बुद्धि को भी लोकेट नहीं किया जा सकता, बट वी थिंक दैट बुद्धि लाइज इन the brain. Okay, suppose we say that, then it is like an organ. We can locate any organ in the body, but we cannot locate the capacity of that organ. जो भी function वो कर रहा है, kidneys, maybe it is filtering out materials, and the mind is emoting, feeling the emotions, the buddhis, the lungs are purifying air. All the functions we cannot see, but we can see only the organs. So I am the capacity, he says. What are the other things we associate with the body? Oh, my body, I associate the mind, which anyway clouds my whole Gyan, and I associate my body with my car, my bank balance and my property and my achievements and my degrees and my qualifications, कि मैं तो इतना पढ़ा हूँ. Qualifications, तो ये सब तो मन, बुद्धि और अपने अहंकार से जुड़े हुए हैं. But the tej which I lend you, that tej, that capacity comes from another source. They cannot come from any organ in the body. Otherwise the doctor उसको ठीक नहीं कर लेते, मतलब थोड़ा सा ट्वीक कर ले, थोड़ा सा केमिकल वगैरह मिक्स करके ये कर ले और वो तेज हम सब में आ जाए. तो so it's not possible. And Bhagwan goes on to say, since he is saying I am the tej in the tejas vinamaham, I am jyotis. Second line, ज्योस्मि व्यवसायोस्मि, यानी कि व्यवसायः, I am determination. We may say, oh, I am very strong. Where is that strength showing in your body? Okay, my muscles. Where is the strength of character showing? Like determination, dhriti, kshama, shanti, santushti. These are strength of character. Akrodha, not having the capacity to hold the anger. No, this strength I cannot see. This vyavasayah, which means determination, is actually the source of victory. Bhagwan is saying, since he is telling all the the highest point of all qualities. He is saying, of all determination, I am victory. Naturally, whatever determination we hold in our hearts and our minds, it will lead us only and only to victory. Victory meaning obtaining what we are determined about. For example, Nischayatmika Buddhihi has been praised many times before by Krishna in Bhagavad Gita. Nischaya, yani ki keep your buddhi very determined. Why? On what? On the highest knowledge, not in the world. But even if you see in the world, चलो दुनिया की ही बात कर लेते हैं. It just so happens the mechanism ये है कि once I decide on something, I make a decision or I want some object. Now there's a thought vibration, and that thought vibration creates certain conditions around me, because that thought has created a mental condition in my mind towards that object. तो वो मेंटल कंडीशन में धृति भी आती है, डिटर्मिनेशन, हार्ड वर्क, फोकस. जैसे हमको अगर चाहिए, आई नीड अ जॉब इन अमेरिका, हाउएवर हार्ड इट मे बी, moment I think one thought like this, that thought creates a condition in my mind कि अब ये करना है, अब रात को जागना है, fill up so many forms, fill out all your resume, approach so many people, उसके लिए hard work है. Mental conditions are already ready for reaching that thought desire which we had. And then if this determination is sustained यानी आपको consistency चाहिए किसी भी चीज को जीतने के लिए, तो the moment it is sustained consistently, you will find that it begins to materialize. You begin to come closer and closer even to your sansari material goals. तो फिर भगवान की क्या बात कहें? Our spirituality is within our arm's reach by the same token. वही token, वही method अगर हम use करें, तो there is a way of getting to that highest knowledge. Same, व्यवसात्मिका बुद्धि ही. अगर हमने determine हो गए, मेंटल कंडीशंस हो गए कि हमको 4 घंटा स्वाध्याय करना है, 2 घंटा सत्संग करना है, एंड आई हैव टू फाइंड आउट एंड आई गो ऑन टू लुक फॉर मोर एंड मोर मास्टर्स. फिर बैठ के चिंतन करना है, इसमें सत्य कितना है, चिंतन करना है. श्रवणम, मननम, नितिध्यासनम, 3 ही तो चीजें हैं ज्ञान को हासिल करने के लिए. पहले श्रवण करें, श्रुति को सुन लें किसी भी माध्यम से, उसके बाद उस पर मनन करना है, बहुत चिंतन करना है, उसके बाद उसको अपने मन में धारण करना है, यानी कि ध्यान करना है. अगर हम तप, लेट्स कॉल इट ध्यान और चिंतन नहीं करेंगे, दीज आर द ओनली 2 थिंग्स इन आवर हैंड्स, और सस्टेन्ड वे में नहीं करेंगे कि आज किया कल नहीं किया, वो नहीं, कंसिस्टेंटली नहीं करेंगे. भगवान कह रहे हैं व्यवसाय ही तो एकमात्र व्यवसाय, डिटर्मिनेशन एंड कंसिस्टेंसी आर द ओनली 2 ways to get your desired goal. Jayosmi, you will get your victory. Vyavasayosmi, through your, and that Vyavasayosmi is me, Asmi. I am the one who gives you that determination. So, moving ahead, Sattvam Sattvavatamaham. In all things which are good, which we have spoken about at length, all that holds beauty and excellence and awe-inspiring greatness and nobility, that goodness is me. Bhagavan has reiterated it. In chapter 2, in fact, about determination, Bhagavan has not failed to repeat whatever is something that's very important. You will find right through the Bhagavad Gita, there will be at least 3 references. अलग-अलग श्लोकों में, अलग-अलग वर्ड्स में. लेकिन अगर कृष्ण सोचते हैं कि ये इम्पोर्टेंट है भाई, इसको याद दिलाना है वापस, तो वो 2 या 3 बार उसका जिक्र आएगा ही. So in the 2nd chapter we have seen in the 44th verse where Bhagavan says व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि समाधौ न विधीयते. अगर आपका डिटर्मिनेशन डगमगाया, तब आपका लव फॉर ज्ञान and your reason, your sense of reasoning, everything is going to be lost. न विधीयते व्यवसायात्मिका बुद्धि ही. किसको बता रहे हैं ये? अर्जुन को आगाह कर रहे हैं. He was warning him. He was warning him that you may lose everything, even your capacity to reason, if you lose your determination and self-control. इसी तरह उन्होंने 9th chapter में भी कहा था, अपि चेत सुदुराचारो साधुरेव च मंतत्यः अपि चेत सुदराचारो, सुदराचारो दुराचारी से दुराचारी आदमी जो होता है, अगर उसने एक बार ठान ली कि मुझे भगवत ज्ञान में लगना है, आई वॉन्ट टू नो द हाईएस्ट ट्रूथ, आई विल फाइंड सम वे। भगवान ने सेड इन द 9th chapter साधु रेव, यानी कि उसको तो मैं साधु नहीं मानता हूँ, लेकिन साधु जितना मान्यता देता हूँ। कृष्ण ने कहा था, क्योंकि वो दुराचारी हो सकता है, नो प्रॉब्लम, बट एटलीस्ट ही हैज मेड द राइट डिटर्मिनेशन, द राइट डिसीजन टू फाइंड out Bhagwan or the highest truth. So moving ahead, verse number 37. Vrishinam Vasudevosmi. Devosmi, among Vrishinam, yani ki Yadav kul mein, the tribe of the Yadavas, you know Krishna belonged to the tribe of the Yadavas. He says, of course the highest in Vrishinam और कौन हो सकते हैं? यादवों की ट्राइब में और कौन हाईएस्ट हो सकते हैं? Naturally, Vasudev, that is the son of Vasu, that's Krishna. Now, we must remember, he is not talking at this point about Vasudev, the avatar. अभी जो उन्होंने अवतार लिया हुआ है, as a cousin of Arjun, as a charioteer of Arjun, as a yodha fighting on behalf of Pandavas, ये सब उनका अवतार है, वो उस अवतार की बात नहीं कर रहे हैं. He is talking about Ved Vyas is very clever. You know, Krishna has so many names, thousands of names, but in this place he has used the word Vasu, because Vasu also means Vasna, यानी कि that which resides. हम कहते हैं ना, ये यहाँ बसे हुए हैं, ये वाली ट्राइब इस सिटी में बसी हुई है. That comes from the word Vasna, and Vas means to reside. So what about Vasu Krishna? Vasudev? Vasudev is everywhere. He resides everywhere. Tell me where consciousness is not. That means he pervades the entire earth and the cosmos. He is avyaya. He is everywhere. So that's why the word I am Vasudev. Not the charioteer or the cousin or the yodha. I am that tattva which pervades everything. So although he is giving all the vibhutis which are of sansar, he has to explain everything to Arjun like us in terms of the things he knows in the world. अगर हम कोई चीज कह दें उनको कि उनको पता नहीं है, जैसे अगर हम फिजिक्स सीख रहे हैं, and I know very little about physics, and the professor says you must understand antimatter. Now I have no idea how to even grasp that term antimatter, because I know only matter as stool and gross. So now sukshma things Bhagavan can't talk directly, so he is giving examples from things that Arjun knows all around him. Then he goes on to say, Pandavanam Dhananjayah. Among the Pandavas, tell me who may be the greatest? No guesses. So naturally it is Dhananjay. And Dhananjay is another word, another name that Krishna has used for Arjun. He has used so many other different names. So he has used Bharata, and he has used Savyasachin. But why does he use the word Dhananjay, the one who conquers wealth? It appears that among all the Pandavas, Yudhishthira, Nakul, Sahadev, Bhim, and Arjun, it seems that Arjun is the one, because of his capacity and his adroitness, he was the one who could bring wealth to them, Dhananjay. This may be one of the reasons. He says, Dhananjay, you are the greatest, of course, among the Pandavas. And therefore, what does it mean? It simply means that Arjun, whatever capacity you have, you may be the greatest warrior, you may have the most excellent skills in archery, you may be indefeatable in war, and people may look up to you as one of the most excellent archers. Where are all these capacities coming from? They are in you because of my vibhuti, and therefore Arjun, Dhananjay, you are my vibhuti. How beautifully he has put it. मैं उस विभूति में नहीं हूँ, अर्जुन तुम ही मेरी विभूति हो. How beautiful. पांडवानाम धनंजयः. इसका मतलब हम भी भगवान की विभूति हैं. Yes. Whatever capacities and qualifications and achievements and they have come from a certain source, and the moment we say कि ये तो मेरा है, मैंने हासिल किया है, मेरी क्षमता है और मेरा प्रभाव है, then we are sinking into aham, and the ahankar of the sansar leads nowhere. क्योंकि all these things in any case are going to be lost in sansar. My body, my aham, and all the things that I think I have achieved, they're going to be lost. Therefore, think of ourselves as the vibhuti of Bhagwan himself. That's so. Please remember, this is a bhakti prakaran. Therefore, it appeals, this kind of description appeals to the people who have already stepped into bhakti. Yes, there is a Gyan way of describing it also, where Bhagwan has already said that everything you see in the world is drishyam. Therefore, if you can see everything and your mind and your body and what's going on in your thoughts and the objects outside, then of course you can't be the drishyam, you must be the drashta. This is the Gyan way to explain and it appeals to the Gyani Margis. But about that later, because since we are in Bhakti, let's just soak ourselves in the beauty of Bhakti for the moment. Number 3, moving on to the second line. Muni namapyaham vyasaha. Among the munis, muni means actually जो मनन कर सकता है, जो रिफ्लेक्ट कर सकता है, इंट्रोस्पेक्ट कर सकता है, मेटाकॉग्निशन, जो समझ सकता है कि मेरे मन में क्या हो रहा है, कैसे मन ही देखता है मन के अंदर क्या हो रहा है. Actually, metacognition is a Western word which is misleading. The mind cannot see itself. We know what is going on in the mind because we are outside the mind. So we are actually the drashta. I don't even want to use Western words. They are very, very misleading. So the drashta is the one who can see the reflection going on. So the one who reflects is the Muni, called Muni. Among all the Munis, no guesses again, who is considered the highest? No other than the author of Bhagavad Gita, Ved Vyasji, the author of Mahabharata, Ved Vyasji, the author of Bhagavad Puran, Ved Vyasji, and n number of other scriptures. So, Ved Vyasji, of course, a great scholar, and this was his pseudonym actually, He was actually Krishna Devapayan, and when people become authors and poets and shire and all that, they very often take a pseudonym. Pseudonym meaning name used for publication. Ved Vyas ji ka publication ka naam ye hai. So now why is he? Of course, we know that there is vast literature in his name, but also because he had come up with amazing ways, a new way of describing things, which were that मैं केवल 2-3 शब्दों में एक बड़ी सी बड़ी बात कह जाता हूँ. कौन ऐसा लिखता था? केवल वेद व्यास जी कर सकते हैं ऐसा. छोटी सी छोटी, pithy sentences, and you would find that they are actually describing a great truth. So, for example, this was a way of his literature, and therefore he is considered great. For example, yo vai bhuma tat sukham, that which is infinite. If you know the infinite, you can find that infinite sukh. See how much we struggle in English. Because in English we have to describe then a whole lot of other things. So if what takes 10 or 12 words is describe yo vai bhuma tat sukham. If you know the infinite, you have reached the ultimate happiness. इतने छोटे शब्दों में. और हमारा धर्मो रक्षति रक्षितः. It takes a lot to describe in any other language that once you have adhered yourself to the highest values of your life, those values are going to protect you from all harm. कितने सारे शब्द लगते हैं इसमें, लेकिन 2 शब्दों में बता दिया, धर्मो रक्षति रक्षितः. So ऐसा एक लिटरेचर का फॉर्म उन्होंने इजाद किया था. He was an inventor where he could express the highest truths, and therefore Ved Vyas ji naturally is called the master. He is called the greatest among munis. Satyameva Jayate, of course you are all familiar with such phrases which come from different Upanishads. Ekam sat vipraha bahudha vadanti. एक सेंटेंस में बता दिया कि रिलीजन्स तो बहुत सारे होंगे और पीर पैगंबर भी बहुत सारे होंगे, उनका बयान करने का तरीका भी बहुत अलहदा होगा, लेकिन सत्य तो एक ही है, दैट कैन नॉट चेंज, इट इज इमूवेबल, अव्यय एंड शाश्वत एंड अनित्य, आई मीन नित्य, सॉरी तो वो नित्य और शाश्वत और अव्यय सत्य को आप चाहे जितनी भाषा में, जितने रिलीजन्स में, जितने मजहब में बांट लीजिए, आप बांटते जाइए, बट एकम सत विप्राहा बहुधा वदंती, बहुत तरह से कहा जाता है लेकिन सत्य एक ही है। अब 4 शब्दों में उन्होंने बता दिया। So this is the beauty of his literature. I won't go into detail because just reading Ved Vyas becomes like an elevating experience. It sort of elevates the mind just to read these phrases or read the Upanishads. And he also categorized the Upanishads, by the way, because before Ved Vyasji came onto the scene, in all the Vedas, you know very well, were actually the research of thousands of munis and rishis, whom we can call divine scientists. Divine scientists because they did research through tap and dhyan into many topics, and they had their gyan with them, and they passed it on to their particular sector of students as Shruti. It was not written down. So as it came down as Shruti or heard knowledge, Ved Vyasji decided, I must traverse the length and breadth of the country and I must categorize, and then he categorized into 4 Vedas, so Rig Ved, Samved, etc. So his contribution to knowledge is immense. It's actually difficult to describe, and therefore when we have this Guru Purnima celebrations, that is the Guru, the ultimate Guru that we are actually praying to. Going ahead, Kavina Mushana Kavihi, Kavina Mushna Kavihi. Among the Kavinam, who are the Kavi in the ancient days? Those who were seers. Seers meaning the one who can see the truth. Among the seers, they used to be called Kavi in those days. I am Ushna. Ushna is another name for Shukracharya ji. And you know that Shukracharya ji actually, yes, there are many seers, but he had a very special quality. He actually did so much of tap and devotion of Bhagwan Shiv that he got a blessing from Bhagwan Shiv to have one secret mantra, and that secret mantra was called the Sanjeevani Vidya. No one knows about it, naturally, because it's a secret. The Sanjeevani Vidya was that he had the capacity to bring back to life people from the dead. From the dead, he could bring them to life. I mean, that's an immense siddhi, and he acquired that. So Shukracharya, Krishna says, yeah, he is the greatest. You know, wherever we see great power and excellence and capacity and siddhi, सिद्धि हमारे दुनिया में भी सिद्धि होती है, ये सिर्फ सियर्स और मुनि लोगों के और कवि लोगों के और ऋषियों के जमाने में नहीं होता था, सिद्धि अभी भी होती है. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, इफ यू जस्ट लुक एट एनी पर्सन इन दिस वर्ल्ड हु हैज कंट्रीब्यूटेड इमेंसली, फॉर एग्जाम्पल टॉक ऑफ सुंदर पिचाई. Let's take a modern example. Sundar Pichai has the one who is heading Google right now, and he is of Indian origin. He is not Indian origin, but now he is Americanized. He has the capacity to visualize something as a possibility in the world of artificial intelligence, and hey presto, it comes to life through some kind of technological jugglery. He brings it to existence. ये सिद्धि नहीं तो क्या है? इट्स लाइक द ऋषि से हमको ये चाहिए, और फिर वो 12 साल तक फॉरेस्ट में ध्यान करेंगे एंड इट मटेरियलाइजेस. चलो ठीक है, लेकिन आज के दुनिया में यस, इवन आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस हैज रीच्ड द कॉस्मोस and it can do things for you which even the previous generation couldn't imagine. Previous generation, they couldn't even imagine us having a face-to-face talk like this in real time, and multiple people on the same call being able to see and speak and have an exchange remotely. आप एक एक generation में सिद्धियां देख रहे हैं artificial intelligence में, and how is it that we don't marvel? We must marvel because these are all the vibhutis of the siddhis that come, and we are drawn to such people. But we must remember, ये सब सिद्धि भगवान की है. इसीलिए पुराने ज़माने में अगर हम किसी की प्रशंसा करें तो उनका सबसे पहला रिस्पॉन्स क्या होता था? भगवान की दया है। यानी कि डोंट फोकस ऑन मी, डोंट फोकस ऑन मी, फोकस ऑन गॉड। ये मेरा नहीं है, भगवान की दया है। कुछ लोग इसको जेन्युइनली कहते थे और कुछ लोग सिर्फ तकिया कलाम लाइक सोब्रिके वो ऐसे ही कह देते थे, लेकिन तकिया कलाम ही सही, लेकिन कहते तो थे कि भगवान की दया है भाई। एक्चुअली इट इज भगवान की दया। एंड हाउ डिड इट कम इनटू द लैंग्वेज of this Indian culture? It came through this kind of reading of the scriptures. So we can say in one way that a spiritual culture of a nation very often is formed through the reading of the scriptures. किसी ने, बहुत लोगों ने नहीं पढ़ा हुआ है scriptures, लेकिन ये सब कुछ चीजें हैं जो percolate होते होते हमारे आम जीवन में आ जाती है। Like for example प्रारब्ध। एक किसान था and I saw him in a flood situation the other day, and that interviewer went in a big boat to meet him, and this poor fellow was stranded in his kutia. I think it was in Bengal. And this interviewer very insensitively is asking him, how do you feel about everything being drowned? Your farm is drowned and you've lost everything. How do you feel? What a question. And this poor farmer, illiterate, not having read the scriptures or anything, it's part of his culture. He says, I think Bhagwan has a reason for it. Ab unki mahima. And therefore he could be quiet. Therefore he was not wailing and weeping and sunk in self-pity and fear. See, self-pity and fear are the two things which are actually expelled by great knowledge. He may not even have knowledge, but he had Shraddha. Therefore Bhagwan says, ठीक है, आप ज्ञान अर्जित ना करें, आप दूसरा रास्ता अपना सकते हैं। क्योंकि चैप्टर 2 में अर्जुन को ज्ञान की बातें कही गई थी, एंड आफ्टर सम टाइम भगवान रियलाइज ओ ये तो पर्कोलेट नहीं हो रहा है। सो देन ही सेड ओके अर्जुन, मे बी यू आर नॉट रेडी फॉर इट। सो इट्स द सेम फॉर ऑल ऑफ अस। व्हेन वी आर नॉट रेडी फॉर दैट अल्टीमेट abstract, very abstract concept of jnana and consciousness, then Bhagwan does step down and say, okay, so I'm going to talk about Sagun Bhakti. Sagun yani, you can create a form and worship that form and have Shraddha. Or you can also do Karma Yoga, etc. So he had given him many other ways to reach that ultimate goal, depending on our readiness. कि हम किस चीज के लिए रेडी हैं, हमारा मन क्या उसको स्वीकार कर सकता है कि नहीं। तो that's how things percolate into our culture. तो वो बहुत श्रद्धा के साथ that farmer said, I don't feel viksheep, I didn't see any desolation, I didn't see any viksheep, any disturbance in him. He said, yes, God has a design and I know something will come out of it. That's all. End of the story. Now he'll wait for some help from the government, etc. But he is not going to disturb his mind. Look at the beauty of this. That's how it works. Bhagwan ki mahima. That's why whenever they said, it's not me who is doing it, they were trying to divert your attention and my attention from them towards God, which is exactly what Krishna is saying. Krishna is saying, whenever you see all this, divert your mind from being attracted to that person with that siddhi or beauty or that vastu or that situation, and think of me. Exactly, that's what's happening. But in the Western world, and we are greatly influenced by the Western culture, I cannot deny that. And in the Western world, there is quite the opposite culture of touting your own greatness, your achievements, your qualifications, then pasting it on Facebook with an exaggerate. मतलब हमारी जितनी सिद्धि, जितनी क्वालिफिकेशन है, उससे या जितना टैलेंट है, उस टैलेंट को हम और बढ़ा चढ़ा के अतिशोक्ति एग्जैजरेट करके और फेसबुक पर और फला मीडिया पर छापते रहेंगे जब तक 1000 और 10,000 लोग न देख लें। तो उनको देखने से हमको क्या मिला? I have only diverted my mind from Bhagwan and got too much sunk and lost in संसार. संसार means प्रतिष्ठा चाहिए, अप्रूवल चाहिए, हमको कोई रिकग्नाइज करे, रिकग्निशन चाहिए। ये सब क्या है? दिस इज ऑल कामिनी कीर्ति कांचन की दौड़ है। हमको वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड में या फेसबुक, लेट्स कॉल इट वेस्टर्न मीडिया में, हमको इस दौड़ में, हमको तो छोड़िए, द वर्स्ट लॉस इज टू द नेक्स्ट जनरेशन, द यंगस्टर्स हु आर sinking into this. That's the warning bell. That's the warning bell of spirituality that you please pull out of it. Moving ahead, number 38. Dando damayatam asmi. जो दंड यानी पनिशर्स, दमयताम यानी पनिशर्स, उसमें मैं दंड हूँ, यानी आई एम द सेप्टर और द वॉन्ड और द स्टिक विच इज wielded by policemen and kings. आई एम दैट दंड. तो हम पॉलिटिक्स में भी देखते हैं कि साम दाम दंड भेद, दे सीम टू वर्क इन व्हेन नीडेड फॉर डिसिप्लिनिंग. नीति रश्मि जिगीषताम. नीति जिगीषताम यानी जो लोग विक्ट्री को सीख करते हैं. विक्ट्री यानी हमको ये चीज है या वो चीज हासिल करनी है. जिगीषताम, तो जिगीषताम में मैं नीति हूं. ऑल दोज थिंग्स विच गेट यू, नॉट सीक बट दैट गेट यू योर विक्ट्री. among that the highest is niti. Niti means strategy. Strategy means that you have a certain plan of action that you can put into small objectives and you can work towards those objectives, and that's your strategy to gain it. So we saw the greatest strategician of the Bharatiya Janata Party is Mr. Shah. I have never seen such kind of strategy, and it has led them to victory. Now, strategy in governance and in politics तो हम सबको समझ में आती है कि yes, it works because people are thinking about the right plan of action. But let's draw our mind to the niti or the plan of action, strategy, let's call it. Let's talk about the strategy in our own lives. Are we applying any strategy in our life in order to live a meaningful life, using all our time and all our resources for a meaningful life? क्या हमारे पास ऐसी कोई स्ट्रैटेजी है या कोई ऐसा गोल है? अगर नहीं तो फिर हम उस देश की तरह हैं जहां स्ट्रैटेजी नहीं है, केओस है, और उसके बाद ऑल द रिसोर्सेज एंड टाइम आर वेस्टेड एंड पीपल सिंक इनटू पॉवर्टी. हम उस देश की तरह हैं. तो यहाँ तात्पर्य यह है कि अर्जुन इज रिप्रेजेंटिंग विक्ट्री. अर्जुन या हम लोग जो विक्ट्री चाहते हैं वो दुनिया के चाहते हैं. मुझे ये फला जॉब मिल जाए, इतनी तनख्वाह मिल जाए, इतना प्रॉफिट हो जाए, वगैरह वगैरह. और इफ नॉट फॉर मी देन फॉर माई सन्स एंड ग्रैंडसन्स इतना हो जाए, तो हमारे लिए आउटवर्ड विक्ट्री मानी जाती है. लेकिन कृष्ण कहना चाह रहे हैं दैट आपका जो इनर रिचेस है, दैट इनर गोल इफ यू रीच, दैट इज योर ट्रू विक्ट्री. जो अपने आप को जीत लेता है, अपने इंद्रियों को और मन को वश में कर लेता है, जो स्वतः अपने आप को जीता हुआ है, उसी को हम विक्ट्री कहेंगे. कृष्ण के भाषा में तो ये कहा जाएगा. इसीलिए द वर्ड जैन इज कम फ्रॉम वन हु हैज कॉन्कर्ड हिज सेंसेस. जैन मुनि होते हैं ना, वैसे. तो स्ट्रैटेजी से हम एकदम सुपरफिशियल मीनिंग न ले और ये समझें कि हमारी अपनी स्ट्रैटेजी क्या है. क्या हम इतने घंटे अपने स्वाध्याय में और मनन में और ध्यान में और टू फाइंड आउट मोर एंड मोर इसमें लगाने वाले हैं? क्योंकि हमारे पास भी समय उतना नहीं है जितना हम सोचते हैं. उतना नहीं है, बिल्कुल नहीं है. सो वी हैव टू मेक आवर स्ट्रैटेजी राइट नाउ इफ वी हैव अ गोल टू रीच. सो Niti Rasmi, that Niti is me, Asmi, I am that Niti. Bhagavan is saying, I will give you that success. Maunam chaivasmi guhyanam. हर वो चीज जो बताई नहीं जा सकती दुनिया में, उन सब चीजों में सबसे उत्तम है मौन. मौन. नाउ मौन की महिमा तो every religion will talk about it actually, because every religion says if you want to gain anything meaningful spiritually, you have to find seclusion, you have to find. क्राइस्ट ने तो यहाँ तक बोल दिया कि पॉवर्टी इज अ वर्च्यू, यानी कि आप ऑस्टियर रहिए, पुअर रहिए. मतलब एक एक्सट्रीम वे ऑफ सेइंग दैट यू हैव टू फाइंड अ कॉर्नर ऑफ योर माइंड वेयर यू कैन seclude yourself, if not physically. फिजिकली सेक्लूड कर सकते हैं तो बहुत अच्छा है कि हम कहीं चले जाएं जहां हम कम से कम दिन में 4 घंटा या 8 घंटा अपने आप स्वतः के साथ, अपने मन के साथ बिता सकें, बिकॉज साइलेंस नीड्स डिस्टेंसिंग. अब आप कहेंगे कि हम फिजिकली डिस्टेंस नहीं हो सकते, और अगर फिजिकली भी हो गए तो मन में तो बहुत शोर मच रहा है. So we have physically distanced ourselves, but psychologically we are not distant from all the desires which are rushing in the mind. कामिनी, कीर्ति, कांचन, ये सही नहीं हुआ, वो सही, वो उसको ऐसे होना चाहिए था, उसने ऐसा क्यों कहा. और अगर ये सब चीजें नहीं सोच रहे हैं राग द्वेष के साथ, तो मन क्या कर रहा है? एमलेस वॉन्डरिंग. कभी ये सोचा, कभी वो सोचा. जैसे इसलिए मंकी माइंड कहते हैं. मंकी जंपिंग फ्रॉम वन ब्रांच टू द अदर, इस पेड़ से उस पेड़ पर. एमलेस वॉन्डरिंग करता है मन. दो ही चीज करती है, या तो एमलेस वॉन्डरिंग या फिर राग और द्वेष में फंसा हुआ है. इन दोनों के अलावा क्या कुछ पॉसिबल है? तो साइंटिस्ट कहते हैं कि मन को तो एकदम क्वाइट करना इज इम्पॉसिबल. यानी देयर इज नो सच थिंग एज अ साइलेंट माइंड. ओके, अगर आप ये बात भी मान लें साइंटिस्ट की, क्योंकि हमने इतना लेवल तक तो ध्यान किया नहीं है कि हम चैलेंज करें किसी साइंटिस्ट को. अगर हमने दिन का 8 घंटा ध्यान किया होता तो हम चैलेंज कर सकते, बट आई कैन नॉट. सो अगर या तो ध्यान करें या फिर ये सोच लें कि ठीक है, हो सकता है मेरा मन शांत नहीं हो सकता, बट आई एम गोइंग टू फिक्स माई माइंड, फोकस इट on something higher. It could be Sagun. I can think of Krishna as a figure, Ram as a figure, Shiva as a figure, or I can think of that ultimate, that powerful, all-pervading white light energy which is actually pervading the entire earth and which is powering our speech and our listening right now, which is powering everything. I can think of it. It's too abstract. Whichever way, my mind has to dwell and hang on and focus on that something. उसको silence कह सकते हैं, because the greatest secrets of the world are revealed only in silence. आप ऋषि और मुनियों की बात छोड़ दीजिए, आप किसी आर्टिस्ट से पूछिए, किसी पोएट से पूछिए, किसी पेंटर से पूछिए, तो उसका सबसे ज्यादा क्रिएटिव टाइम होता है जब वो एकांत में कुछ सोच रहा होता है, लेकिन सोचता है उस विशेष तत्व के बारे में. that happens to be his art form. Okay, so if we think of God, why can't we reach God? And ask any scientist who has not focused, has not ever been able to invent anything or look at anything new. So the scientists and artists, all creative people, actually writers for example and poets, they need vast amounts of silence, vast, क्योंकि उसी में आप सत्य पा सकते हैं. the secret of anything. अब सीक्रेट हम क्या ढूंढ रहे हैं? हम सब सीकर्स हम ढूंढ रहे हैं द सीक्रेट ऑफ द यूनिवर्स, ऑफ दिस जगत, ऑफ ब्रह्म. सपोज ब्रह्म तत्व ढूंढ रहे हैं. We are seeking the highest secret. It will reveal itself to us, just as when a poet thinks about his poetry, the poem reveals itself to him and he gets the right turn of phrase and the beautiful phraseology and simile and visualization in his mind, which he transforms into language. ये आता कहाँ से है? So it reveals, the secret of poetry reveals itself to the poet in silence. The secret of some scientific truth, whatever he is being researched, reveals itself to the scientist in silence. The secret of art reveals itself to the painter. That secret is in that tattva, and it's only revealing itself to us when we are in silence. So when we say you have to withdraw, you have to distance yourself, it's not such a big deal. It is, you'll find every writer and poet and artist and thinker or financial expert, वो एकांत में चला जाता है और कहता है आई एम गोइंग टू थिंक ऑफ अ न्यू आइडिया. तो लेकिन यंगर जनरेशन क्या सोचता है? दैट withdrawing away from the world is a great FOMO. FOMO is again a millennial language, which means fear of missing out. Fear of missing out, FOMO. जैसे योलो था ना, यू लिव ओनली वंस, इसलिए खाओ पियो. ये सब इनकी भाषा में एक क्वालिटी ऑफ कल्चर आ गया है फ्रॉम, लेट्स कॉल इट अ ग्लोबल कल्चर नाउ. अब वेस्टर्न वर्ल्ड को क्यों हम मलाइन करें? इट बिकम अ ग्लोबल कल्चर, अब सब जगह है, हर व्हाट्सएप में फोमो योलो, तो ये फोमो है। अगर हम एकांत में हैं, आई फियर आई एम मिसिंग आउट ऑन समथिंग, माई फ्रेंड्स विल टेल मी टुमारो फेसबुक पे, अरे यार तूने ये मिस कर दिया, ओ माई गॉड देयर वाज दिस बिग ऑफर हियर, यू मिस्ड इट आउट, और वो और जुट जाएंगे आपको जताने के लिए कि यू have really missed out something from संसार, and make you feel small and insignificant and a loser. देखेंगे अरे ये तो loser है, and therefore we must understand that being alone and being lonely are two different things. Krishnamurti used to say, being alone is the highest quality of chintan, manan, a reflection, and being lonely is when you are hankering to seek out a new relationship, a new object, or something new to entertain your mind or to distract your mind. वो loneliness होती है जो अपने आप में सुख या शांति नहीं पा सकती है स्वयं में, और therefore they get distracted into seeking out new relationships and new objects of entertainment. तो distraction ढूंढने लगते हैं. So we are looking for distraction most of the time. भगवान कह रहे हैं it's only in silence that you will test, you can test how stable is your mind. वरना हमको पता ही नहीं चलता है कि मेरा माइंड स्टेबल है कि नहीं है, क्योंकि वो हमेशा विचरता रहता है. इट्स ऑलवेज आउट. सो चंचलम ही मन कृष्ण प्रमाथि बलवत दृढ़म. ये मन ऐसा है कि इतना बलवान है, हमको हर लेता है, अबडक्ट कर लेता है, चंचल है. चंचलम ही मन कृष्ण अर्जुन बोले थे, एंड भगवान हैड सेड यस असंशयम महाबाहो. आई डू एग्री विथ यू. द माइंड हैज दैट क्वालिटी. अब क्या करें? यू हैव टू ट्रेन इट like a pet animal. Therefore, it is only in solitude you can find the highest. योगी युज्यते सततम आत्मानं रहसि स्थितः. ये 6th चैप्टर में उन्होंने कहा था रहसि स्थितः. आप अगर अकेले बैठेंगे सेक्लूजन में, एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा, एकाकी यत चित्तात्मा निराशीर परिग्रहः. ऐसे इस तरह से बैठेंगे निराशी, जिस मन में किसी न किसी चीज की आशा पलती ना हो, और हर वो चीज जो हमारे पास है ऑलरेडी उसको संग्रह करने की आशा ना हो, तो निराशी र परिग्रह. ऐसे मन को लेकर एकाकी सतत चित्तात्मा ऐसे बैठिए. 6th चैप्टर में भगवान ने पहले ही कहा था, और हमने पहले ही कहा है कि जो चीज भगवान समझते हैं कि भाई इसको तो एम्फसाइज करना है, दिस इज एन इम्पॉर्टेंट थिंग, वी कांट फॉरगेट इट. उन्होंने वो पूरे गीता में ऐसी कुछ चीजें हैं जो 3-4 बार जरूर आती हैं. सो वी कैन इजीली कोट देम. तो मंत्र ऐसी चीज है कि एक स्वामी थे सेंट, एंड ही सेड कि मुझे सिद्धि हासिल करना है कि मैं लोगों के मन में झांक सकूं और उनके मन में क्या चल रहा है ये पता कर लूं. तो बहुत सालों के तप के बाद ये सिद्धि उनको हो गई. उसके बाद जो उनकी हालत हुई, क्योंकि वो हर जो मन में घुसते थे उनको he could see only garbage. After some years he said, Bhagwan, take this siddhi away from me. There is so much noise and it is useless noise. It is not noise about query and questioning or about Bhagwan. It is only noise about sansar, about trishna, about desires, unfulfilled desires, और fulfill हो गए तो more desires. ये तृष्णा, ये संसार की तृष्णा, मुझे तो यही सुनाई दे रही है, यहाँ बहुत शोर है, भगवान ये सिद्धि आप मुझसे वापस ले लीजिए. तो वो स्वामी की ऐसी हालत हुई थी. अगर हम अपने मन में झांके तो हमारी हालत भी ये होगी. Therefore there was that song in one movie, भेजा शोर करता है गोली मार भेजे को, ऐसा कुछ सॉन्ग था. which means we don't have to peep into other minds. Our own minds can drive us crazy because of this unfulfilled trishna which goes on and on and on. For what? For a sansar which is in any case nashwar. In any case it is not permanent. But that's the quality of our spiritual growth and our culture and our upbringing and the training of our mind, let's call it, which doesn't allow us to understand the true quality of dhyan or focus. Vyavasayatmika is to focus on the right thing. It doesn't mean silence. Number 39, verse number 10. यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां बीजं तदहम् अर्जुन न तदस्ति विना यत्स्यां मया भूतचराचरम्। आई एम द सीड ऑफ एवरीथिंग। यच्चापि सर्वभूतानां, जितनी भी चीजें हैं मैं उन सबका बीज हूँ। नेचुरली बिकॉज इट इज फ्रॉम मी, आई एम द कॉज ऑफ everything that has emanated, और जो चीज उजागर हुई है, I am the बीज of everything. So among all the beings, what is the highest? That बीज, that tattva, that causal body, let's call it. ये कारण शरीर या causal body is a very Upanishadic language. I'm just introducing it by the way. causal body means वो cause जिससे सब कुछ उत्पन्न होता है। तो ये small example is when we are in deep sleep. तब हमारी ये क्षमताएं, हमारे ये likes and dislikes, हमारा culture, हमारे ये good manners and etiquette, और हमारे ये हाव भाव, हमारा education, हमारा temperament, ये सब कहाँ जाता है deep sleep में? We are not aware of it. That means it's gone. अरे हमने तो इतने सालों से अपना एटिकेट और अपनी कल्चर संवार के रखा था। नहीं, it's there but it goes into causal form. Same way, when we are dead, when the body is dropped, it goes into the causal body or the karan sharir. That karan is called the bij. That means it can be born again. Prabhava pralaya. So there will be prabhava again from the bij. So there are some people who say, we talk of God और उनकी महिमा, उनकी विभूति and all, so I can't experience God, I can't experience it. They actually use this word experience. तो अरे भाई उनसे पूछिए कि आप सब चीज, हर एक चीज को किस तरह से एक्सपीरियंस करते हैं? So they'll say I experience through my senses, yeah, through the sense of touch or smell or taste. So फिर स्पेस, आपके इर्द गिर्द स्पेस है? हाँ है। आप उसको एक्सपीरियंस या टच और स्मेल और व्यू कर सकते हैं? नहीं। तो हर वो सूक्ष्म चीज जो है, उस सूक्ष्म चीज के पीछे पड़ जाते हैं अपने छोटे से फाइनाइट मटेरियल एम्पेरिकल माइंड को लेकर कि मुझे प्रूफ चाहिए। दिस इज नॉट एम्पेरिकल साइंस, दिस इज द डिवाइन रेवलेशन। इसलिए वो इतना सूक्ष्म है कि हमको मन, बुद्धि, लॉजिक को यूज करते हुए फिर उसके परे जाना होता है। डीप ध्यान में जब जाते हैं तब उसके परे चले जाते हैं। Therefore, सूक्ष्म चीजों के लिए let us not use instruments which are gross. हमारे सेंसेस, इंद्रियां ग्रोस हैं, और जो चीज हम पहचानना चाह रहे हैं वो सूक्ष्मतर है। मतलब इट इज द सटलेस्ट ऑफ द सटल, वो कॉन्शियसनेस। और कह रहे हैं नहीं, मुझे ये इंस्ट्रूमेंट से नहीं दिखाई दे रहा, सो मे बी इट्स नॉट देयर। तो क्या आप जेसीबी मशीन लेके, लैंड मूवर लेके आप एक ब्लेड ऑफ ग्रास को काटने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं? ये तो नहीं हो सकता। इंस्ट्रूमेंट हैज टू बी राइट। उसके लिए इंस्ट्रूमेंट क्या है? सूक्ष्म बुद्धि। बुद्धि हैज टू बी मेड सूक्ष्म, एंड इट कैनॉट बी सूक्ष्म बिकॉज इट इज ड्वेलिंग ऑल द टाइम इन द वेरी वेरी ग्रोस वर्ल्ड संसार of objects and people and relationships and गुण and भाव and व्यक्ति परिस्थिति, इसमें विचरता रहता है। ग्रोस चीजों में आप घूमते रहेंगे, फिर कहेंगे मुझे नहीं दिखाई दे रहा, वो सूक्ष्म। तो we have to use a सूक्ष्म बुद्धि, for which भगवान has already said in the 6th chapter कि भैया ध्यान करो, ध्यान से बुद्धि सूक्ष्म होगी। और हम क्या यूज कर रहे हैं दुनिया में? अपने लिए कुछ न कुछ हासिल करने के लिए, टू गेन दिस और दैट, use a very तीक्ष्ण बुद्धि, and then we say, oh, we are successful. Yes, you are successful. We all are in the worldly sense, because we have used a buddhi called the तीक्ष्ण buddhi for profit, for gain, for success, for happiness of the worldly kind, of course, not the paramanand. तो भगवान इसीलिए कहते हैं तीक्ष्ण बुद्धि, वेरी गुड। सूक्ष्म बुद्धि की ओर only and only meditation and chintan and manan and silence that can take you, nothing else. Last couple of verses, we'll take it up next time. Om Purnamada Purnamida